All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, Ian Rapoport of the NFL Network reported that the New England Patriots are currently shopping safety Kyle Duggar. Now, admittedly, I know I'm a Jet fan, but Kyle Duggar has been one of my favorite players throughout the years. Such a fun player to watch. Safety's my favorite position in football, and to watch Kyle throughout the years, right? Man, has he been just such a good player. You can move him around. He can do a bunch of different things. His tackling, his physicality, high defensive IQ. Those early years with the Bill Belichick defense, obviously last season with Gerard Mayo, that defense. But it's looking like he could, nothing is for sure, it could look like he could be playing for a new team this upcoming season. Now, I believe that the Patriots local media was actually on this for the last couple of days, so this has been talked about like amongst Patriots fans and whatnot. But yeah, this is kind of what it really goes back to what we were saying a couple weeks ago, where sometimes you have these veteran players or in some cases really good players, but they just don't really maybe fit what the new coaching staff wants to do, or maybe that player is too expensive, or maybe the coach wants to roll with a younger player for whatever reason and just can't really, or to be frank, maybe that player just has not had a good camp. So that first impression, if you will, has not really been there with the new staff. But in my opinion, I think really the main reason why Kyle is on the trade block here, well, really a couple points. Number one, he just signed the extension, so there is a lot of money invested in Kyle Duggar. I believe it was like $32.5 million guaranteed in his deal. It's a 4-year contract. And he just signed it in 2024. The second point, he did deal with an ankle injury last season, and when he came back from that, he just didn't really look like the same player, in my opinion. And then, of course, the third point, we were just talking about brand new coaching staff coming in. So could Kyle Duggar wind up on the New York Jets? Is it realistic to talk about? Could it actually happen? I think there's a ton of positives, but there's also a handful of negatives that we also have to bring up here. First order of business, how would the Jets acquire Kyle Duggar? I just don't know if the Pats are just going to outright release him. He's a $15.3 million cap hit for the season, and I believe because he's so early in the extension, it's like a $14 million dead cap hit. So, and granted, New England can't afford it. They have a ton of cap space, but that just doesn't really seem like a good allocation of, your overall cap space. What happens if they move on from Duggar and all of a sudden they have an injury to the starter, and now they're thin at the position and they have to maybe make a move. So I just don't see a situation where they just outright release, but maybe trade. And of course, from that conclusion, we have to ask the question, what's the realistic likelihood of the Jets giving away a draft pick to New England and the Patriots trading away at one time a really good, really productive, one of the best tackling DBs in football, giving him to a division rival? Obviously, the team in the Jets here would be taking on Kyle Duggar with a plan in mind. They're not going to take on this bigger contract for a safety and say, yeah, we kind of don't know how to use him, but we'll see when he gets here. Obviously, they would have a plan. Would New England do something like that? Would they maybe want to trade him to the NFC for like a lesser offer? I'm not sure. And another question as well that we have to ask, because we don't really know how Darren Mougey likes to work, as the days go by here, we're seeing more and more moves happen. We're getting a kind of a good read on how this guy likes to operate. But certain GMs will not trade their players or will not trade assets to their in-division rivals for players. Joe Douglas did it quite frequently. We actually saw a trade with New England. We saw Codrington got traded to the Buffalo Bills before the start of last season. In any case, how does Darren Mougey approach it? Is he completely against it? Is he open to it? Does he not care at all? He just looks at it like we're getting better, and that's really the bottom line. Lots of questions here, but to put all that aside for a second and just looking at, okay, Kyle Duggar's on the trade block. Should Darren Mougey pick up the phone, call? What are the positives? What are the negatives? I think there's a lot of points in both sides here. So let's talk about the positives first. Kyle Duggar, again, one of the best tackling safeties in the game. And we have to ask the question, if Kyle does come in, does he fit the Aaron Glenn, Steve Wilkes defense? And I think the answer is yes, absolutely. Right? When I'm thinking about this Aaron Glenn defense or what we've seen so far through preseason, going back to Detroit, it's about physicality, aggression, man-to-man coverage, a lot of cover one looks. You're rushing 4 down linemen. You're blitzing the quarterback. Steve Wilkes, of course, is going to be calling the defense. And if we take a look at both Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes' background, we've talked a lot about this, but they both came up through the coaching ranks as a DB coach, right? Obviously, Aaron Glenn in New Orleans, he clearly played, and Steve Wilkes going all the way back. I mean, he's bounced around. He's been on tons of different teams, right? San Diego Chargers, he was the DB coach over there, ends up getting an opportunity with the Carolina Panthers, and again, works his way up to DC. In any case, we've seen a lot of really, really impressive defensive back development from Glenn, New Orleans, Detroit, and Steve Wilkes. Put those two guys together in the same room. If you're a defensive back, you got to be loving life. You know you're in good hands. Gardner, Quantez Stiggers, everybody. You are in good hands with these two guys coaching you. So could both of these coaches here be looking at Kyle Duggar saying, hey man, we've seen what this guy can do. He comes in at a huge position of need. You know, I think I would take Kyle Duggar over Tony Adams at this point in time if we're just talking about who's our day one starting strong safety, despite the contract size. We know he fits the system, right? If the Jets are going to be rolling out a lot of cover one man-on-man coverage, you can just drop Kyle. You can take Duggar, drop him down to the line of scrimmage, drop him into the box, have him help against run support, have him roam over the middle of the field, that robber position, right? Where he's monitoring the quarterback's eyes. He has enough space to make plays, uses instincts to blow up pass catchers, right? Blow up passes like mesh routes, crossing patterns, tight ends on curl routes, screens out of the backfield. He just has this free range back there sitting behind the linebackers. Also, you can use him as a great quarterback spy. You know, not to mention Kyle Duggar as a blitzer. So for me, man, I'm definitely intrigued by the on-field fit. Here are some negatives, though. Number one, it's not really a good sign where you have this player who has been productive, he's been flat out awesome year after year after year, has the injury, production falls off, and first impression with the new coaching staff, it's not working out. He's not even going with the starters, and he's not even practicing with the starters, playing later into preseason games, rolling with the backups. But this guy just signed an extension. I know it wasn't Mike Vrabel's decision to sign him to that deal, but you just kind of think like a player like that, with the amount of strengths, of his game, he should theoretically find his way onto the field in the Vrabel defense, but quite frankly, it's not happening. So you do kind of have to ask the question, right? Injury, not looking good after the injury, not really looking good so far through training camp. Could this be a situation where New England is actually looking at the Jets saying, please call us, or you know what, we're going to call you and offer him to you guys because we know he's a problem. We know he's not going to start. We know he's not going to work out here. You inherit the money. You pay this extension. Not our problem. You have to deal with it. We don't know what's happening inside the New England Patriots building within the organization, how they're viewing him at this point in time. I wish I had that answer. But yeah, we have to bring it up, right? Whenever you're trading for a player and he's already signed on a bigger extension and what we've seen lately has not been great, it's worth noting. The other big question mark here too is we know Aaron Glenn likes to play young guys. We know he wants to get these guys going. That's a big part of his overall development. That's why we've seen so many defensive backs develop under Aaron Glenn, because they've played early into their careers. If you trade, so you're giving up a draft pick or two, compensation, what have you, for Kyle Duggar. Yeah, you're upgrading, but you're essentially saying Malachi Moore, you're pretty much only going to see the field if Kyle Duggar is absolutely awful or he gets hurt, because this guy's on an extension. This is not going to be like a cheap little 1-year rental, see how it goes. So yeah, I think Malachi Moore, I like the potential there. I like the talent. We saw what he did against the Eagles. Man, what a tremendous game, not only just on defense, but also on special teams. Someone who I'm as a Jet fan, I want to see him on the field. I do think he has more potential than Tony Adams at this position. Can also play in the slot as well. First team All-SEC last season with Bama. But again, if you're acquiring Duggar, I just don't necessarily know the pathway to the field, especially because we have a really good slot corner, Michael Carter. So again, where is that pathway? If Kyle Duggar comes in, the pathway is blocked. Now, of course, the counter to that is if you don't mind, if you're upgrading at the position, Kyle Duggar's 29 years old, what does it matter? Like, the Jets have got to win games. So if you're upgrading there, they feel good about the fit, they feel good about the contract, then just do it. It makes sense. Also, he would have, some information on how the New England Patriots are doing things as well right now, playbook wise, tendencies, what they've been practicing and whatnot, which I'm sure the Jets coaches would not mind listening to that information. We see it quite often, right, where a team will go out and claim this player from a practice squad just in time for the big game. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth a call. Am I ready to pull the trigger? I have to see the trade compensation. I think if the Patriots are asking for a late round pick, I'm doing it 100%. If they're asking for a mid round pick, obviously the Jets don't have a 3. I'm not giving up a 2. So I would trade a 5th, but what a 4th? The 4th round pick, that's kind of like early 100s in that range. That's the big question. Would you be okay parting ways with a 4th rounder? I feel like New England would at this point accept that, assuming they're not as, I just can't envision New England at this point in time saying, okay, he's playing late into preseason. He's not going to start for us. We all know what the deal is in New England with the new coaching staff coming in. We want a 1st. We want a 2nd rounder. It's not realistic. So for me, I think a 4th round pick is the highest I would go in this situation, specifically for the Jets. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment. And even the 4th round pick, I'm still a little iffy on. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Is this something that you would want to explore? Do you think it makes sense? Or are you like, hey, you know what? Let's save the cap space. Let's let Tony Adams and Malachi Moore kind of be this platoon option at strong safety and keep a draft pick in return? Or do you swing for the fences and say, hey, at one point in time, Kyle Duggar was considered one of the best safeties in football. I remember specifically the week 1 matchup against the Bengals and the week 7 matchup against the Jaguars. Kyle Duggar was a standout for me. So anyway, yeah, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.